Good evening, everybody. I am Superintendent of Schools, John Antonucci, and I'd like to welcome you all to our third community forum for the high school building project. I know it's a really busy time of year, so I appreciate anybody that took the time to come and learn a little more about the project and become invested and engaged in this very important project for the community. So thank you, truly thank you. We also have a virtual option for tonight's meeting, and we expect online attendees also. I'm actually going to pause just for a moment because this is officially a meeting of the school building committee. So I'm just going to take a moment to call the meeting to order. So the time being 6:02 p.m., I'd like to call the May 23rd school building committee meeting to order. We have several members of our school building committee here if you just want to raise your hand. Thank you. We also have a posted agenda for this meeting, and the Pledge of Allegiance is always on our meeting agenda, so I'd ask you all to rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I also just did want to mention Town Manager Michael Borg, who's on the building committee and was scheduled to be here tonight, had a personal matter to attend to, and he asked me just to send his regrets. He's really sorry he can't make it tonight. So I'm going to get going here, and at some point, I think people up here will introduce themselves, but we have representatives from the school district. We have representatives from Vertex, who's our owner's project manager. And we have representatives from Dorn Whittier, who are our project architects, as well as I mentioned, this school building committee. Tonight's focus is on what we call the educational plan, which that plan document is actually a requirement of the MSBA, but it's also a really important tool for us and document. And what it does basically is it requires us to articulate what teaching and learning should look like, will look like in North Attleboro for the next few decades, which is a fairly daunting task and exercise. And it's going to help us inform the ultimate design of a new or renovated high school. So the majority of tonight's meeting is really focused on the educational plan, and you're going to hear from really smart and talented and visionary people here. So that's kind of the main focus of tonight. After that, Dorn Whittier, our architects, will come up and share some of their very preliminary work about how this education plan is beginning to inform their design, and also what space is going to be needed to enable us to meet our educational plan, execute our educational plan. They're also going to update us all on where we think a new or renovated building would be sited and on what property it will be sited. And they'll share some very brief thoughts on some potential traffic and site improvements here. So that's that. And then finally, from Vertex, Tim Bonfatti from Vertex will come and leave us with an updated project schedule, and we'll share some, we'll share some opportunities on how you can continue to stay informed and involved in this process. What you're not going to see tonight, and I hope you're not disappointed, are any building layouts or any formal building concepts. We're close, but we're not quite there yet. We're not quite ready to share. What I am going to tell you, and I'm going to ask you to put this on your calendar, is our next forum is going to be on June 18th. And that's going to be a really exciting evening, because that'll be the first time that we'll be able to present to you some initial building concepts for several options. Whether it's a straight renovation of this building, whether it's an addition renovation to this building, or whether it's probably be a couple options about potential new buildings. So on June 18th, and I'm really excited to get there too, we'll be able to start sharing some of these thoughts and preliminary building concepts. So you're not going to get that tonight. I hope I didn't disappoint you by telling you that, but I just wanted to be upfront about that tonight. And finally, if Anybody is on Zoom. We have a Zoom webinar, the virtual option. We're going to have time for questions too for this audience, but if you have questions from the online audience, I ask the online audience to use the Q&A function on the Zoom webinar platform. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A, and we'll relay those questions to the full audience and answer them as we see fit. If we can't answer any of your questions tonight or any of the online questions, we'll certainly take them and ultimately report back on them using the district website or some other channels. So that is it for me. Again, welcome. Thank you for taking your time out of your very busy schedule to join us tonight. And now I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent, Michelle McEwen. Michelle.
Good evening and welcome to the May Community Forum. My name is Michelle McEwen and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Schools. Tonight, I have the privilege of presenting North Attleboro's educational plan for the future of North Attleboro High School. If you've ever had the chance to speak with our town manager, Mr. Michael Borg, you've probably heard him say these words: "It's a great day to be in North Attleboro." And I agree. It's a great day to live in North Attleboro. It's a great day to work in North Attleboro. But most importantly, it's a great day to go to school in North Attleboro. The reason I say this is because North Attleboro is a community that is filled with great pride in its town and celebrates its tradition of educational excellence while embracing the bright future ahead. This education plan represents everything we value as a community and creates a vision for a new or renovated high school that delivers that vision. To accomplish this goal, the high school assembled a team of curriculum instructional leaders who collaborated with school and district leaders to write the plan. In fact, many of them are here tonight. I want to extend my gratitude to everyone for the time and effort that they took to talk to people, to think about the future of the school, and to help write this plan, because without you, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you. As the team worked to write the plan, they spent time surveying students, meeting with teachers and staff, and listening to feedback from our community. This feedback helped us to develop an educational plan that takes us in our tradition of educational excellence and combines it with an eye towards a bright future that will provide all of our students with educational opportunities that prepare them for success in the future. Next slide. Tonight, we're going to provide you with a glimpse into the educational plan for the future of North Attleboro High School. While the educational plan for the Massachusetts School Building Authority has been in the works for about 3 months, our vision for the future has been in the works for several years. The vision for the future of North Attleboro High School is a project that we've been working on from the time that we created the district strategic plan. This plan, which is on the screen behind me, prioritizes success for all students while enhancing deeper learning. This plan is represented by the visual graphic, and it led all of our schools across the district to work on enhancing opportunities for students to engage in deep, meaningful learning. The purpose of that plan is to provide opportunities for students to develop communication skills, collaboration, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. We believe that by developing this plan, we were able to promote skills district-wide that could prepare students for success in the future. This strategic plan became the center of every school's work and allowed the high school to consider how they could create a new vision for the future. That vision focused on learning and authentic experiences. It's my pleasure to introduce Peter Haviland, principal of the high school, to describe that process that the school went through to develop their vision.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you, Michelle. So we're fortunate to live and work in a community that has always done its part to ensure their todays and their tomorrows were always great days. And I'm proud to be here tonight with my teammates to show you how we will create the same great days for our students and all of the children throughout the future of this school. Our team is strong, focused, determined, and enormously talented. They are all examples of absolute excellence, and we are so well positioned for unprecedented success for North Attleboro High for the next 50 years. We've come a long way in the past 10 years, but the energy that is pervasive throughout our district is as strong as it's ever been. Two of our district pillars, success for all students and deeper learning, are simple in concept, but profound in impact and benefit, especially as our schools continue to dedicate all of our energy towards those objectives. Our work towards success for all students and deeper learning began here at North in the summer of '21. After the first full year of school in the post-COVID world, we had somewhat of a cathartic experience during a summer school leadership meeting. There was some talk around the school that once COVID was over, we could simply go back to normal. That feeling didn't sit well with our school leaders, and we generated the resolve to set the course for a complete renewal of every aspect of teaching and learning in our school. We knew we could do it because our teachers proved themselves to be adaptable and strong during the remote learning experience of the COVID years. We knew we had to do it because COVID had an adversely profound impact on all students, especially in the development of their relationships with themselves, our school, and the world around them. And to be clear, our renewal isn't entirely fueled by the impact of COVID. Our plan is also based on feedback that American high schools have been given from colleges and employers for over a decade. They are telling us that too many high school graduates are not sufficiently skilled to persist in a college education or as members of the workforce. It's a dilemma they face and a problem that we all have a role and responsibility to help solve. During that summer of '21, we agreed that we needed to create an educational model that leveraged the best of teaching and learning throughout the past decades of North Attleboro educational excellence, while also ensuring that students experienced their learning in a way that was more relevant and authentic so they could more easily understand how their learning could be applied more beneficially during their 4 years at North and in their post-secondary lives. We agreed that a higher quality education is made possible by leveraging course content to help students develop the core social, emotional, and academic skills that are critically needed for success in their lives. We agreed that we can do more and provide more so that all students could achieve success in a variety of ways and that they better understand the value, purpose, and benefit of their education. One of the best and most challenging questions a student could ask a teacher is, why do I need to learn this? In the midst of a well-created lesson, it's a question that could stump even the best and most experienced of teachers. When you think about it, it's the best question a student can ever ask of a teacher and the best question a community should ask of a school. Knowing we had a great deal of work to do, we started the 21-22 school year by sharing our plan with all of our teachers during faculty meetings, surveys and small group. All right. So we were talking about good?
Yeah. Try that.
Good? That's all right. You want me to go back to the beginning?
There's the mouse to advance.
Advance it up there. Actually, you advance it. I'll tell you why. All right. Here we go. So we were talking about how we had surveyed our teachers during faculty meetings, created surveys and small group discussions. We surveyed students and obtained some of the best and most informative feedback we could have ever expected. And we found that our professional judgment, insights, and instincts were right on. We found that there was a strong desire to make changes and that we shouldn't attempt to return to normal and that all kids needed more. That was the rallying energy we used to confirm and commit to a plan of significant improvement in all aspects of teaching and learning at North Attleboro High School. In addition to insightful and thoughtful teacher input, one of the quotes that resonated with all of us was from a student who responded to an inquiry during the 21-22 school year. It's so compelling that it's worth reading aloud, and you can see it behind me on the screen. I quote, "As a senior graduating in a few months, I believe that more should be done to help students discover what they are truly passionate about. Forcing all kids to learn the same things in the same way is not going to create a generation of problem solvers and innovators. It will only create mindless and exhausted robots. Many students are trying to come up with their own definition of success, but it's extremely hard to do so when that definition has already been ingrained in the education system. Schools should encourage students to explore their interests, whether that be art, music, robotics, or literature." And that response, succinct and powerful as it is, served to confirm that our plan for the education and success for all students required us to responsibly prioritize the learning and development of skills as the highest value and benefit outcomes in every single course throughout the entire school. Public education is a promise. It's a promise we make as a community to the families and children throughout our town so that they are ready, able, and willing to be successful in any path they choose after high school. It's also a promise we make as a community to our state and our country to ensure that all of our graduates are skilled, independent, and self-sufficient as possible so they can be producers and the creators of the quality of life needed for our society to function. Next slide. To that end, we created a new mission for our entire school, and in that mission, we created a promise that our school will embed the instruction of core social, emotional, and academic skills across the entire curriculum to support student growth during school and to prepare our students for post-secondary success in education, careers, and active citizenship. In the past few months, our district leaders, school leaders, and the team of extraordinary educators here tonight have worked extensively to create this plan. It will guide us towards significant improvement and implementation, and it will certainly allow us to deliver on our promise. We're excited about our future and proud to share our plan and objectives with you and our entire community. So now please welcome Jessica Calderon, the NAHS Curriculum and Instructional Leader for Fine and Performing Arts, so she can show you how we're turning our mission into impressive action for the benefit and success of every student at North Attleboro High School. Jess.
Thank you, Pete. With this mission in mind, our attention turned to thinking about the skills necessary for our students to be successful both during and after high school. All staff were involved in several engaging activities that resulted in the vision of a Rocketeer. At the core of this vision is the idea that while content is important, it needs to be in service to teaching skills that are authentic and relevant to our students. Our goal is to empower our students to be effective and ethical problem solvers, collaborators, communicators, and lifelong learners. These 4 transfer skills transcend the different courses students experience and will enable them to adapt in our changing world. In order to make this vision of a Rocketeer a lived reality, every student at NAHS will embark on a journey of self-discovery where they will develop a deep sense of self and connection to the world. Student journeys of self-discovery require authentic learning. Authentic learning involves focusing on everyday, relatable experiences that connect what students learn in the classroom to how they apply these skills in real-life situations. It fosters passion in students so that they can experience deep, meaningful learning and creates a pathway toward the future. One part of authentic learning at NAHS involves the exploration of essential questions. Who am I? Who are we? Where am I going? And how will I impact the world? Students will develop their skills as problem solvers, collaborators, communicators, and lifelong learners through the lens of their academic courses, experiences, and these essential questions. The vision of a Rocketeer rooted in authentic learning will provide students with an educational journey that brings their experiences, interests, and humanity to the center as they develop skills essential to navigating the world. I will now turn it back over to Michelle to talk about how this vision of a Rocketeer informs the education plan.
So you heard a lot about our theory of how we got here and the process. And now we want to show you, well, what does that look like in a school? When a student walks into our school building, what can we expect to see? This first slide, you can move to the next one, shows us the progression through the high school. Students in grades 9 and 10 will start to explore the questions, who am I and who are we as a school community? In grades 11 and 12, they move outward. They start to think about, where am I going? What pathways and careers am I interested in? How might I impact the world? In order to organize our school in terms of how we can deliver this new vision to the high school, we feel that it's really important to emphasize that our program of studies at the high school is exemplary. We have so many classes that kids love to take, and teachers have spent time and effort developing, and that core academic piece is going to stay a part of North Attleboro High School. So when you look at grades 9 and 10, you'll see in the center square that foundational instruction is the base of the first 2 years of our educational plan in North Attleboro. This is core academic courses. It's ensuring that the foundation that all students have at the high school is stable and secure, and they have confidence to move forward into grades 11 and 12. In grades 11 and 12, through our program of studies, we're able to offer electives that really promote students exploring interests and get excited about their learning. They think about what they might want to do in the future, and they have the opportunity to select courses that might really put them on a pathway to success for their future. As we started to talk about this concept and think about how students might explore their future, especially in grades 11 and 12, the team came up with the idea of creating 3 hubs. These hubs are places where students can start to apply their learning. So they might go to a classroom and learn about an academic content area like our business and entrepreneurship class. You learn the theory about business, but you haven't really applied it yet. In our school, we happen to have a school store. Our new model would allow us to build that school store into the central part of our school community and allow students who are in our business and entrepreneurship classes to begin to explore how to run the store, how to market, how to do branding, how to make commercials to advertise and get kids excited about buying the things that are in the school store. And by creating these hubs, that hands-on learning and that real-world application comes to life. The next slide will allow me to show a little bit more about those hubs. So the concept of our school is to create a large open space in the center with hubs. The hubs are classroom spaces as well as a concept. The concept is that we want the heart of the school to promote hands-on learning, real-world experiences where kids can take what they learn in the classroom and then apply it in situations that allow them to show what they've learned and be engaged in their learning. The hubs are based on the idea that the tradition of educational excellence stays, then we combine it with opportunities to apply those skills to be life and career ready. That center of authentic learning would be the first thing you would see when you walked in the building. We would take some of our spaces. For instance, right now, our TV studio is a small space located in the back corner of the building. Many of you probably don't even know that we have a TV studio. That space would become front and center. Not only would the students who work in the TV studio have access to it, but teachers who teach an English class on public speaking could take their students into the recording studio and actually have students have an opportunity to practice speaking and working through a TV production. Also, we have what's called an innovation pathway program at North Attleboro. In order to provide engineering, design, and fabrication experiences for students, we took a loading dock in the back of the building and converted it into a space where students could do projects where they took what they learned in class and actually went through the engineering process and designed a prototype. That space is a makeshift space that works right now, but if we were able to bring that into the center of the building and create a hub for building and design, all students would have access to that space and have the opportunity to apply what they've learned in any of their classes. This hub also allows us to have learning on display and allows students to demonstrate whatever they've learned through visual, social, and physical outlets. Finally, we envision our school as a place where we can showcase and celebrate student learning, and those hubs at the center of our school will allow us to celebrate that learning and each student's personal growth throughout their school day. Now I'm going to introduce one of our CILs, Patty Bratberg. We're going to give you a quick glimpse into each of the 3 hubs as we currently envision them so you can get a feel for what that would look like. Patty?
Thanks, Michelle. So, one of our hubs will be the Fabrication Hub. This is a collection of spaces in which students can design and construct in order to synthesize their learning. Courses such as mechanical and electrical engineering, along with sculpture and graphic design, will have designated spaces within the Fabrication Hub. However, courses such as geometry and theater, for example, can access the hub in order to provide their students with authentic learning opportunities. So an example might be a geometry class uses the skills they're learning in the classroom and then goes to the Fabrication Hub to design and build a scale model. They might even decide to team up with that theater class so that their scale model is actually the model for the set design for the school play, which can then be built for students to use. Now, Kate Violet is going to come up and talk to us about the Communication Hub.
Thank you, Patty. So the Communications Hub will be a place for content creation. It will feature the TV studio, the Digital Art Lab, Music Technology Lab, and Drama Studio, as well as a recording suite and editing bay, as Michelle alluded to earlier. Having these locations centrally located will offer easy access for multiple subject areas, and it can be a place that other classes use to also record podcasts, voiceovers, or edit videos that demonstrate their learning. This will allow teachers a chance for interdepartmental collaboration. And for example, a math class that's located right across the hall from the TV studio this year, Mr. Loro's class, teamed up with Mr. Burdick's video class to make a film that showed their learning. The Communications Hub will not only have learning on display as students are working in the hub live, but also in the content that they create. Now Jessica will come back to talk about the last hub.
Thank you, Kate. The Environmental Hub will be a collection of spaces where students can observe, respond, and interact with the natural world. While it seems fitting that classes such as environmental science and biology would have a home in this hub, you can also expect to find students in drawing or civics and music classes demonstrating their learning in this space and furthering their understanding of interdisciplinary connections within the world. We heard from many students that an outdoor learning space would bring a new dimension to their learning. While there are countless ways for students to learn in such a space, as an art educator, I can imagine my students in art classes in this outdoor learning space learning through the rendering of the natural world around them.
To conclude, we have spent so many hours and so much time thinking about what this vision for the high school could be, and we will be sharing a 55 to 60 page document that outlines every piece of this. Hopefully we've given you a glimpse into the parts that we're really excited about, that we want for our students, and allow us to provide that bright future for their education. We put up a picture of the Little Red Schoolhouse on this slide because if any of you are from North Attleboro, you may have visited that schoolhouse. We started our education plan by writing about the Little Red Schoolhouse as the first place in our educational journey. Children of all ages came to that one spot and sat in rows and practiced writing with little nubs of chalk, multiplication tables, and reciting verses. And back then, that was probably an incredible education. Over the years, we have continued to develop and take that pride in North Attleboro and grow into a community that has pride in our education. And so many people come back to this community because they want to give back after getting an incredible education here. Our commitment for the future is to maintain that educational excellence while opening the doors of opportunity for all students in the future. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Doran Whittier.
Before we invite Ron Lamar up, I want to say two things because I know we had some technical glitches. So for the online attendees, if you're on the Zoom webinar and you have questions, we're going to leave some time in a few minutes for Q&A. I'd ask that you use the Q&A feature in Zoom, and we'll relay those to the full audience. So that's for Zoom. And I also just want to say one more thing because I didn't see when we started that we had State Representative Adam Scanlon in the building, and I want to acknowledge him. I want to thank him for coming, but I also would suggest that we wouldn't even be here today talking about the possibility of a new or renovated North Attleboro High School if it weren't for Rep. Scanlon's advocacy and support. He does a lot for our town. He's obviously very active in the legislature, so thank you, Rep. Scanlon, and we're happy you're here. Thank you. And I'm going to introduce Ron Lamar from Doran Whittier.
Hi. So it's a pretty exciting time for the school district, and as you just saw in that last slide, Michelle has been talking about how do we transform from the little red schoolhouse where North Attleboro began into a modern school facility. So since February, we have been meeting with educator groups, we've been meeting with the leaders you see here, we've been meeting with the district and students, all students, to talk about what their vision is for the school. And then we are adding that into this ed plan that you have just heard about tonight. Next slide. So what that means is we're going to take the vision and the ed plan and we're going to say, how does that manifest itself into a building? And as Michelle pointed out at the beginning of this, how does it touch every student within North Attleboro, no matter what their needs are, what their visions is, or what their future lies? And so we take that into the built form, if you will. This is a spreadsheet that talks about what are your existing spaces and places within the school now, how many classrooms, what are their sizes, and we compare that to the Mass School Building Authority's guidelines, but more importantly, we compare that to the spaces and places that Michelle and the leaders are talking about in terms of what they need. And by using this spreadsheet, we're able to right-size your building. We don't want to overbuild it, we don't want to underbuild it, but we want to make sure that every single space for these hubs that the leaders are talking about, or the classrooms and the general classrooms, the special ed spaces, athletics, and all of the specials that go on here, what is the exact right size that we need? That leads us to what we call bubble diagrams. So the spreadsheet has every room that's going to be required in the new facility, and this is still an ongoing process. So we, even as of today, we're talking about, should this room be this big or 25 or 24 square feet shorter or longer? What you see here are all of the puzzle pieces to scale. So you can see in the orange there, the large orange square is the potential of a future gymnasium, and the repetitive blue boxes that you see behind me, those are your general classrooms. So you can see that they're within scale, and we take these pieces back to the vision group, back to the curriculum leaders, and we ask them to show us how they would organize their school. This is not our school. We are the creative arm of the minds that are building this for North Attleboro, and those minds come from North Attleboro. So the next slide, we have sat with your students. You can see Michelle in the photo and Pete, some of the curriculum leaders. Everybody has sat around. We've cut out all these little parts and pieces, if you want to call them the puzzle pieces, and we've said to them, what is the best way for us to organize your school educationally to meet your vision, your goals for your educational plan? Next slide. And what we ended up with was just exactly what Michelle had just been talking about and the curriculum leaders have been talking about. How do we get these hub spaces, these rooms of authentic learning on display in the center of the school, and that is surrounded by all things education, all the educational neighborhoods. How does special ed fit in? How does the dining facility fit in? How does the core curriculum spaces fit in? The auditorium, all these parts and pieces. What's the best way educationally to organize the building? And while we're doing that, so that's basically the level that we've gotten to, and as we're doing that, we're also looking at the site. So working very closely with the school district as well as the town, we've gone out and looked at the sites within the town that could possibly support a school on that site. And after looking at these sites and determining what these sites are, some is in conservation land, some has traffic considerations, some is parks and rec, the consensus from the school building committee has been, let's just stay on the existing site. We have a new stadium on the site, our middle school is on the site, the middle school can start to engage in whatever high school solution we come up with. It makes all the sense in the world to stay on the existing site, and the school building committee has made that decision. So if we look at the existing site, one of the biggest things that we've heard since we've started on this project is traffic. The middle school and the high school traffic, how that works today, how the parking works today, and how it's congested. We've met with the police department, the fire department, we've met with the district leaders, and what we're looking at is to come up with a solution that separates the middle school traffic from the high school traffic. We intend that this will ultimately relieve the congestion and maybe even take all the cars off of Landry so that the cars, when they come and pick up students or they're queuing, they can queue and pick up on site. In addition to that, we've taken a look at the idea of what if this is an addition renovation? Where's the best place, where's the buildable area up against your existing school where we can manifest a addition onto the building? So we can't build to the west because that's your new stadium, or the north because that's the middle school. So one of the areas that we've identified as the buildable area is on the south side of the existing school. And if it were a new building, what's the best way that we can build a new building without any interruptions at all to allow your students who are coming to the high school today to learn a lot about construction while that site is being constructed on the south side, but at the same time have all of their education completely undisturbed while they're in their 4 years of high school? And Tim will come up and talk a little bit about the timeline.
Thanks, Ron. I'm Tim Bonfatti from Vertex. We're the owner's project manager. So I did want to just kind of quickly remind people of the process, the MSBA process that we're in. It's a three-part process, so I'm going to try to stay away from the jargon, but the first part is the preliminary design program. That's where we are right now. That involves this ed plan, this great ed plan that I think you heard about tonight. It involves the discussion of the existing conditions of this building and the site. And then it also has the options that we will put forward and study over the summer as we move toward getting the preferred option. So that is scheduled to be submitted in July, the preliminary design program. The building committee has a lot of work to do after that submission in terms of evaluating the options against criteria that they're going to be discussing over the next few meetings and measuring each option versus those criteria. That'll result in the decision by the building committee toward the end of the summer and into the early fall for a preferred option. So that's the preferred schematic report, the second step of the MSBA process. That actually will be submitted to the MSBA in October. And it's very important, obviously a very important step because that is the option that the town will be voting on in the spring, some 6 months plus later. So that is why we're here encouraging people to make sure they attend this meeting, the one on the 18th that Superintendent Antonucci mentioned. And because when we submit the preferred schematic, we then move into the schematic design report, which essentially is a portion of the design process, the actual design process, that we then price and put a schedule to. We negotiate the MSBA reimbursement on, And that is, again, what the vote will be made when the town is asked to vote this as a debt exclusion in the spring of 2025. So I did just want to, again, highlight the importance that a lot of the work that's going on now is so critical and important for people to pay attention now, and then in obviously this summer when the building committee meets, as we will, excuse me, as a lot of the decisions the building committee will be taking at that point will be presented in the fall. So that's a quick overview of the schedule upcoming. Obviously, if it passes, our remainder of the schedule stays that we expect to start construction in about sometime in the early summer of 2026. And we would expect the building to be completed, depending on the option, 2 to 4 years after that. And we'll have a lot more detail, obviously, as we move through the process. So I think with that, next slide, please. We are now at the point where we are going to take questions. And just to highlight again the importance of the 2 parts on the 18th, the options that the building committee will be looking at will be presented on the 18th.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, everybody who just presented. I know we threw a lot at you. Hope it was informative, but we do want to leave some time for you, for either feedback or questions. Like I said, if we can answer them tonight, we will. If we can't, for whatever reason, we'll make sure we either get back to you directly or post them on the district website. And I will talk a little later about the website and what information is available to you. So with that being said, are there any questions? There's one back there. TJ, do you have...
Hi, I actually have a 3-part question. The first part is your hubs appear to mimic vocational curriculum to me, and is that done on purpose?
I'm glad you asked that.
Because otherwise the people won't.
Sorry, come back to the mic. Thanks for asking that question. As we took a lot of the feedback, and actually at our first community forum, we heard a lot of people speaking about how that type of learning was so important to them. And we actually had some students come back and say that some of those hands-on learning opportunities were where they really felt a lot of value lies in the school. So while we won't be a Chapter 74 school, we won't necessarily compete with a school, say, like Tri-County, who offers some great programs. We do feel like that hands-on learning piece is something we can really expand our offerings. We offer some of those things, but we want to be able to offer them to all students.
Thank you. My next question is for the designers who said you were thinking about building on the south end of the property. And you also mentioned there won't be such a traffic jam with the middle school. How? Because it looks like they're still going to come out the same way.
Sure. So I believe the question is, why are we thinking of building on the south side of the school? The north side is your middle school, and then the west side is your stadium. And so we kind of don't want to touch either one of those. And on the east side is where primarily a lot of the parking takes place right now. So this allows us, that south side is sort of wide open, if you will, to allow us to do that, especially for the renovation piece. For the renovation piece, you have a lot of space within the building right now, which has no daylight. So if we build on the west or the east side, we could still end up with landlocked classrooms. The second question, I believe, it has to do with the congestion of the middle school and the high school traffic. One of the things that we've learned is when everybody comes in the morning, most of those are staff members and students, drivers, who come in and they park their cars. So they come in and they park. No?
I'm going to disagree with you. I
Okay.
think Mr. Rizzo will attest to my many phone calls here. I happen to live on Laurelwood Drive, the street right next door, and was actually shocked to hear about this because we never received any letters in the mail. We actually had a street HOA meeting last week where it was brought to our attention. I'm not involved in, I don't get the newspaper. I don't see a lot. And so in the past, the school has been a very good neighbor of ours and always has sent letters in the mail to us letting us know there's building going on off of Town Street, I believe. and they're abutting our property on the other end at the cul-de-sac. Letters came around before that even was a thought, you know? And this is the first we're hearing about it, and you're already into this stage. And so it was a little shocking to us. Trees have been cut down along the property line back there.
Oh,
So
we
I'm
haven't
just
done
finding out about it.
Right, we haven't done any work at all. There's no construction taking place.
Somebody was taking trees down, and it is
Okay.
a school property, but it abuts Laurelwood Drive neighbors. So,
Right, it's not, I can just tell you that we are unaware of anything going on in this project.
Okay.
Because we haven't put out any contracts, we haven't done anything for anybody to take a tree down. So the question that's being asked is anything ongoing right now in terms of separating the entrances and the areas? No. I mean, the answer is no. We have a traffic engineer who's done a study, and the traffic engineer has said that when school dismisses in the afternoon, which has been talked about with the school leadership, that's when everybody's leaving the site. So separating this would most likely happen on Landry. It would not happen on any of the neighborhoods around or surrounding the school. That's not the intent. Our traffic engineer, in fact, has only studied the Landry roadway, if you will, as it enters into the high school. That's our focus, as we showed in the diagrams. So one of the reasons we're thinking seriously about separating this is in the afternoon when school dismisses, the middle school parents picking up the middle school students, as well as the middle school educators, will be able to leave through their entrance onto Landry. That will alleviate any of the bottlenecking that takes place between the middle and the high school at the main entrance to the high school now. So essentially, that main high school entrance will be dedicated to the high school, and there'll be a dedicated entrance and exit off of Landry for the middle school. The buses will be able to come in their own time. They're scheduled to come in and to leave. And so that's what we're trying to do, is separate parents from buses, from the students and the staff. And as I said, nothing has been decided. In fact, the diagrams that we showed up here show two completely different thoughts about how we could do that on Landry. We fully understand also from the district that the neighborhoods, and we've talked about this with the police and the fire department as well, that the neighborhoods are not even being considered as any kind of entrance or exit into the site.
well, they can't because it's a private road, but what happens is when everyone's leaving the school in the morning or the afternoon right now out of the main driveway, they don't want to wait at the traffic lights, so they take a right on red, and they loop around at the top of Laurelwood Drive, which is the next street. I almost got hit by a car doing that. I almost got T-boned. I almost got hit personally running one day, and I almost got T-boned in my car one day. So it's a very dangerous way they've got them exiting now. So you're talking about 2 entrances and 2 exits as opposed to the one right now?
Yeah, I think, so the question is, right now, folks leave the high school and take a right and then do loop arounds in neighboring streets. And what we're trying to do is alleviate that problem. So what we have is a traffic engineer who's an expert at this, who does traffic studies all the time. And when we get to that stage of actually coming up with optimal solutions to this, the traffic engineer will be up here explaining why this works, how is it the best way. There is a signal right now at the end of that entrance that is utilized today. And so there's plenty of time. Again, stay engaged during the summer, because during the summer, a lot of this is going to be discussed. We'll have more public meetings on it.
Thank you.
Let me just take one of the online questions, if you don't mind. Okay, sorry, I can't read this. Okay, and it says, in the last meeting, we're informed that the school is being built to accommodate a student population less than what the current student population is. We were informed about studies and forecasts that were performed, but I would ask if there has been any reconsideration into accommodating at least to current population count, if not more, given the town is very invested in expanding things like low-income housing, et cetera, which will undoubtedly increase the student population. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. What I would say is our enrollment number, which is 1,025, is the number that the MSBA approved for North Attleboro, and that will be the number that we will continue with through the course of the design and construction. So I don't know if anything else to add on that? Sure. You're good.
And so one of the things to consider is a modern facility is very different from an existing facility. So because it's flexible and adaptable, for instance, your school right now is about 20 to 25,000 square feet smaller than the MSBA would consider for 1,025 students. So if you can fit all your students in the school now, that when the building grows 20 to 25,000 square feet, you'll be able to accommodate those students as well. The idea is not to overbuild or to underbuild. The MSBA has a formula to look at demographics, but at the same time, they also understand population bubbles that come through the schools.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions from this audience? Oh, at the top.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this presentation. It was very informative. I'm thinking, though, about the challenges post-COVID, thinking particularly about mental health, and I'd love for you to say more about student attendance has been an issue. And when you're thinking about the ed plan, also the teachers, students don't educate themselves, so job satisfaction for your teachers, retention, dealing with the mental health issues that often lead to behavioral issues that need to be handled with skill building and not just suspensions or detentions. Can you say a little bit about what that looks like, and is that being thought about with this space to properly handle all those? And one last caveat then, also, I'm thinking about guidance, and many high school students have no idea what their futures look like, so I don't see, some of them might really feel challenged and increase their anxiety, feeling like this model expects them to know what they're going to do with the rest of their lives.
So the question was, and fill in the blanks if I don't get it, but the question was based on post-COVID, the impact it had on students, the increase in issues with mental health, and all of the ways in which that might impact student growth and learning. And then the question is, are we considering that as a part of our plan and our vision? And so thank you for that question, and absolutely true, and I guess that speaks to the thoroughness of this process and working with the partners, the OPM and Vertex and our architect in Dora Whittier. We spent the last 2.5 months or so every Monday in user group meetings, and our architects came down and interviewed each of our departments and our groups, medical office, our student counseling, our counselor offices, school psychologists, and we talked about those issues at length. We talked about its connection to teaching and learning. We talked about it in terms of the way a building or a new building can support and ensure the well-being of all students, socially, emotionally, and mental health-wise, and physically as well. So we're proud of that work, and it is kind of woven into the educational plan that Assistant Superintendent McEwen was talking about earlier, and it is part of our practice, and it is part of our priorities and objectives, and that happens no matter what happens in terms of the building, and we've already started that work extensively throughout our school and community.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sure.
Do you think that this hub model is going to affect students' decision from middle school to go to Tri-County?
I mean, it's sort of an impossible thing to
Is
answer.
that your goal?
Well, it's not my goal. I just think the goal is to provide students more hands-on, experiential, project-based learning. We know that's attractive to students. That's what attracts students to Tri-County. We do think there's a huge population of students who are just looking for a little taste of that, not necessarily the full vocational experience that a Tri-County offers. So I love Tri-County. I think it's a phenomenal school, but I would love to keep as many kids home here in North Attleboro as well, and we hope that this does incentivize kids to stay here. Thank you. That's a great question. So looks like we're concluding here. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I truly appreciate it. Also, thank you to everybody online. I apologize for the audio situation for the online attendees. We'll try to fix that moving forward. I do want to leave you with one last advertisement, just about staying connected. We have a MSBA project update link on our district website, and our district website is www.naschools.net. It's not, we're working on sort of the formatting of it, but everything and anything related to this high school building project is currently available for public consumption on that website. Everything from school building committee meeting agendas and minutes and backup material, if there is any, to documents that we've had to submit to the MSBA, things like the educational plan that you learned about tonight, that will be posted. Really anything that we're working on ends up on that website. We also have a link to basically a survey document that allows anybody who goes to that link to ask a question, make a comment, provide feedback, and we're monitoring that frequently, and we'll ultimately, once the volume increases, we'll ultimately turn that into probably an FAQ document for everybody to kind of keep up with. And the final thing I'll say is that we've produced now 2 very short videos about this project. The first one was more of an introduction to the project, a lot of information about the timeline and the stages of the process. It is really well done, very easy to digest. And that, as of tonight, we now have a second video that's posted, and we'll also push that out to the community. Sorry about that. We'll push that out to the community broadly either tomorrow or Monday, that just really encapsulates in about 4 minutes and I think 10 seconds what you learned tonight about the education plan. And what I would say about that is we know people have short attention spans, and it's people don't like to digest huge reams of information. These videos are a really quick way to get up to date and stay engaged and informed about this project. And my pitch to you is please share those with your friends, with your family, with your neighbors. Share, anytime we can spread the word about what's happening with this project, I think we're all going to be better off for it. We need you. We need the community for this project to be successful. So that's my final pitch. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you again for coming, and we hope to see you on June 18th. It's going to get real exciting really fast, and so hopefully we see you in a month. Okay, take care. Thanks.